Welcome to the Nail Tech Society podcast, where we cut through the noise of the nail industry and finally make things make sense. I'm Melanie Lewandon. Let's get into it. Well, hello everybody, and thank you for joining me on today's episode 9, I think, of the Nail Tech Society podcast. And firstly, I want to apologise to you for not uploading any episodes over the last month. This is just because I've been on holiday. I'm naughty, I know. I've been on holiday, and the week before and the week after my holiday are always really busy, just trying to tie up loose ends or pick up where I left off when I get back. And this is the first week I've had to actually sit down and record. So to make amends for that, I'm actually going to release 2 episodes this week. One is going to be this one, which we're going to talk about infill and rebalance. And on the next episode, I'm going to just very simply, it's going to be a very quick, very brief episode. I'm going to explain what a nail apex is and why we need them on our nails, and also the difference between a hidden apex and an apex. So you'll probably want to listen to the next episode too. So today's episode, we're going to be talking about infill and rebalance. What is it? Why do we do it? Why is it important? Why do techs shy away from it? Why do they choose soaking? Why we shouldn't be choosing soaking over maintenance every time. So this is going to be quite a good episode. Hopefully you'll find it really informative. This episode, I really want you to get involved, and please pop some things in the comments, because this episode is going to shape future episodes and also help me as an educator understand what everybody is doing at the moment, how people are learning. So please interact with this episode. There's a poll as well that I'd like you to take part in, and also if you could leave me some comments on this episode, I'd be really pleased. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode. So what is it? What is an infill? What is a rebalance? Are they the same thing? Are they different? And I'm going to tell you from my point of view, from 20 years in the industry, learning with many different educators from all over the world. Okay, infill and rebalance are different. So an infill is a couple of weeks, the nail hasn't grown too much, the apex hasn't shifted too much, so it's more of like I call it a light dust. So, imagine you've done a deep dust a couple of days before with your Mr. Sheen. This is your feather duster, just giving it a little flick over, making sure that there's no lifting, removing a small amount of product, enough so you can just assess the natural nail, and repopping it back in without adding any thickness, just repopping in the structure at the back of the nail that you remove. Minimal work. A rebalance is a longer growing nail, or a nail that needs more attention. So we've got the apex that may have grown out too far, which is obviously then putting pressure on the natural nail. We need to get rid of any lifting. We need to put the sidewalls back in, make sure that the upper arches, which is when you look at the nail from the side, it's the top line, and the lower arches, which is when the sidewalls grow out, that's your lower arch, what you can see, are all put back in. That is a rebalance, and that normally happens 3, 4, 5 weeks. Why do we do infills and maintenance? I'm not going to call them infills and rebalances. I'm just going to call them maintenance. Why do we maintain product? The reason why we maintain product is we're checking for any lifting, cuticle, sidewall, pocket, tip. We're looking for lifting. The reason why we're looking for lifting is because lifting will help us assess our work. It'll help us figure out what's going on, or whether a different product is needed, or if the client's lifestyle, are we going to need to do something different. So lift is actually a really good indicator of whether we're putting the nail on correctly and whether the client is looking after them correctly, or whether we've got an issue somewhere with a lamp or a product or thickness. Lifting is going to be one of those things that is going to be able to tell us a lot about our previous service. We're going to restructure the nail. So we're going to put the apex back in. We're going to put the sidewalls back in. We're going to put the product back on. We're going to assess the natural nail. This is really important. So we're going to assess the natural nail. We're going to make sure there's no lifting, no greenies, that there's no splinter hemorrhaging, that the smile line is still okay and there's no anomalies there leading to onycholysis, whatever you want to call it. I'm from Derbyshire, I'll call it onycholysis. So that's what we're going to call it. So if you hear me say that, it means that the natural nail has lifted from the nail bed. So we're assessing the natural nail, whether we infill or rebalance, that is what we're doing. And maintenance is so important because it's negating any unnecessary strain on the natural nail. So as the nail grows forward, the more it grows, the more strain it's putting on the natural nail, because that structure that we build is then gone. Structure is really important, and I'm going to talk to you about that on the next episode. While 8 weeks retention is great, it's not great for the natural nail. If the structure's correct, it shouldn't do too much damage, but it's not something that you want your clients to be doing. I would say, and I'm going to probably push myself out on a limb here, if the structure is correct in the first place, if you are putting the right product on for that client and the structure is correct for the product that you're using, hard gel, soft gel, acrylic, whatever it is you're using, then, 5 weeks, 5 weeks. I wouldn't ever get my clients to push it to 5 weeks. I would be a maximum of 4 in my chair. But some clients like to push it as far as they can. But that is going to depend on whether that structure was there in the first place and whether the product was applied correctly. We restructure for stability. That's why we do it. We assess product breakdown. So, excuse me, products break down. It's a plastic. The products that we use are plastic based. So that product will break down over time. So it's good to kind of have a look and assess where we're at. Now, I'm involved on lots of forums and I spend a lot of time on forums answering questions. And I do see a lot of techs choosing to soak every time over maintaining a nail. And I'm going to just explain now why it's important that we don't choose soaking over maintaining and where we choose soaking over maintaining. So soaking every set isn't great practice. The reason why it isn't great practice is I want you to go back and listen to the previous episode about the natural nail plate, and it will tell you and it will explain to you why it isn't best practice. We need to maintain the natural nail plate, and when you soak at every appointment, you are constantly scraping that natural nail, filing and prepping all of that natural nail, which over time is going to thin it. It's going to thin it out over time. Whereas when you are maintaining the natural nail, the only natural nail that we are ever prepping is the new virginal nail that is growing out. We don't go underneath the nail covering that we've got on there. But on that, we always have to leave a little bit of product on the natural nail. The only time I ever fully take off is if my client's having tips and a restructure is needed. So if that natural nail is growing downwards and that we need to re-tip, if my client's preference is tipping, I always try and keep their natural nail if we can. Or if they want a longer nail and they like a tip, then I would keep an eye on the structure. And when it starts to dip downwards, I would then take that product off and re-go. I would also only do it if I'm using hard gel and that nail needs a correction. And I've corrected it lots and lots of times, or if the product's breaking down and I can see that it's breaking down and it needs to be freshly done, that is the only time that I will ever fully remove the product from the natural nail. I will always keep a super thin coating. So infilling, I would be removing 30 to 40% of the product and the colour and the builder product, and then just literally replacing that back growth, that couple of week growth, and not thickening up the free edge. I'm not making it any thicker, and I'll go on to that in a little while. Rebalance, I will be removing 80% of the product. I'll be literally just leaving the thinnest layer on the natural nail and then re-popping that structure back in. going back in with my product and building that structure again, whatever product I'm using. So there is a difference between the two. There's more work involved in a rebalance, but it's still got to be done with the natural nail in mind. However, I'd also soak if I'd got a trapezoidal, I can never say that, trapezoidal, a nail that looks like a triangle that flares out at the free edge and is thinner at the cuticle area. So a nail that has lost those side walls for whatever reason, and the nail grows out wide at the free edge. Those nails over time, because I pinch with my hard gel if they're really flared. So over time, I only ever pinch on a fresh, but over time that will grow out, that pinch will, and my nails will be triangular shaped again, and I will need to remove the product to go back in and redo that. But then some techs may disagree with me. This is how I do it. Why are techs scared of infilling and rebalancing a natural nail? There are lots of reasons. Firstly, the educator didn't explain the wheres, whys, what fors, or how to correctly do it. Most courses don't even explain how to do it, and this is how they get away with it. You will do an online course or you will go to an educator. They will train you in one day. You will not be able to cover that in one day, or in a course that doesn't even tell you how to maintain, just because they don't want to do it or don't want to tell you or don't know how to themselves. They will literally say soak off and restart. Obviously you can't soak off a hard gel. You need to know how to maintain a hard gel, and again, you can't do this in one day. You have to do it over 2 days so that you are seeing the regrowth and actually getting some real-time experience with how to maintain. This is causing so much fear because techs are so scared to maintain product because they haven't been taught how to, and then they reach out onto forums and ask other techs, and a lot of those other techs are in the same position. They also haven't been taught the correct way to infill or maintain a nail. That is why I think soaking off soft builder gel, and why hard gel isn't being used, why we're not prescriptively manicuring a nail, because techs are too scared to use hard gel because they're going to have to work to maintain it. But actually, it's one of the most amazing products, and those clients that are getting lots of liftings with your soft builder gel, it's hard gel that they need. Don't just push aside a product because you're scared of it. Actually, embrace it and get to know it and learn it, and you will become a much better nail technician from doing that. Excess product. This is another reason why techs are scared. They are applying their nails so thickly. If your nails are thick and they're getting thicker every maintenance or infill appointment, you're doing it wrong. Sorry, I don't want to be the person to deliver that to you, but you are actually not applying that nail correctly. The nail is too thick. When you actually maintain, it should be really easy. The thicker the product, the stronger the nail is totally incorrect. It's actually the structure that we're going to be looking for, and we're going to cover this in future podcast episodes. So if your nails are too thick and it's taking you a long time to get those nails down to a suitable thickness to infill without creating further thickness, it's incorrect. So go back, relook at your structure, go and learn a little bit more about structure, do some CPD with somebody. I have online courses, do one of my online courses. They're not expensive, and use it as a refresher. And it's probably going to teach you a lot that you know, but it also might teach you something that you don't know, and it's great for CPD. The old wives' tale about you must soak off every 3 times, 7 times, 10 times. I've seen all different numbers. Totally incorrect. My clients have never been soaked. The only time I ever soak is for reasons why I've mentioned before in this episode. I need to restructure. They want tips. The product's broken down too much and I need to get that off and start again. That's the only time that I will ever soak off, ever. In fact, I have had no acetone in here for 7 weeks because I've run out. I have now. I got some the other day, but I don't use it. I don't use acetone, so because I don't soak. So there is no soak needed. The problem is there's so much misinformation that techs are being told that they need to put a new set on you don't need to do that, because if you're maintaining that product correctly, it will just stay attached to that nail plate, grow out, so you're not removing any more of that dorsal layer, any more of that intermediate layer, go back to the previous episode and start to understand the natural nail, and you will understand this episode so much better. Infilling and rebalancing are a super important part of our everyday work. If you're a tech that doesn't understand infilling and rebalancing, what I want to know now is I'm asking you to get involved in this episode. Please comment below, okay? Comment below, why are you scared? Why is it that you soak off every time? What is it that scares you about infill and maintenance? Maintenance appointments, infill rebalance, or maintenance, as we call it. Why is it that you choose to soak every time? I want to hear in the comments so that I can answer, so that I can help. I've also popped a poll on there on, were you taught how to infill and maintain at the correct weekly interval? So did you actually have to go back to your educator after 3 weeks, or were you just taught how to infill? Was you actually covered in great depth how to deal with all the different types of lifting, pocket lifting, cuticle lifting, sidewall lifting, and why they all occur? Were you taught any of that? Please get involved in the poll, because it helps me develop the podcast and develop my courses. So that is it for today's episode. It was a quickie, but it wasn't a quickie. Also, comment if you want me to expand any more on infilling, rebalancing, or maintenance as an umbrella, as we call it, and I'd be more than happy to do that for you. Join me on the next episode, where I'm looking at the apex. I'm going to explain the apex to you simply. What is it? Why is it there? And why it's important, and the difference between a hidden apex and a standard apex, which will be a really interesting episode, I hope. So thank you for joining me. It just leaves me to say that if you are a nail tech and you're finding this podcast really helpful, please share it with others. Please share it with others so that I can get this word out and all of these teachings out to other nail technicians just like you, and help elevate standards in the industry, and try and make things a little more clear and a little more understandable for those of you that haven't perhaps had the level of education that is required in the industry. I'm hoping that these podcasts will fill those gaps. For now, give me a like, share this podcast. It's the only way I can get in front of other techs just like you. And thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you later, duckies.